The Witch, a New England folktale, hit the big screen in 2015 at the Sundance Film Festival. It was well received a year later at its US opening weekend, earning over $8.5 million. This was a big success for Robert Eggers in his directorial debut. It follows the life of an early 1700s Puritan family after they're cast away by their peers and excommunicated by their church for an unknown religious difference. As they leave the safety of the plantation and struggle to establish themselves in the wilderness, the family is shaken by the sudden disappearance of their youngest child. Despair falls upon the family and talk of a witch arises. The Witch is certainly a story with many meanings. On the surface, it's a story of a family that is slowly and methodically torn apart by the evil around them, orchestrated by the devil, aka Philip the Goat. For many theater goers, this promises for an entertaining evening. However, for the cinephile looking for a little more, they need only pay attention to the finer details. In this analysis, the well-known cinematic device known as the prop will be explored. Prop is short for theatrical property and refers to just about any movable object that is seen on screen, excluding the actors and locations. They can be used to fill out the empty space in a shot or as something the actor or actresses can use to enhance their performance. They can mean absolutely nothing, or they can be the key to unlocking an entire story. In The Witch, Eggers' attempted use of props to give the story depths works well. With the subtle placement and framing of certain objects, he took the explicit story of Thomason's seduction by the devil and turned it into an implicit look at what was really going on. He took a two-dimensional film and made it three-dimensional. The film is surprisingly devoid of simple props. The majority of scenes feature the actors in their wardrobes next to the house, barn, or stable, or the vast wilderness, none of which truly fall into the category of props. Because of this, when a scene does feature a prop, it tends to catch the eye of the viewer. Some stand out more than others, like the apple, a flash of red in a monochrome world. The silver goblet that shines in a dark room. And lastly, the rotting corn, which shows up again and again. After Caleb's encounter with the witch in the woods, he somehow finds his way back to the farm. He convulses on the floor in a feverish haze and then vomits an apple. Is this simply witchcraft? The side effects of a paranormal encounter? The cinema world encourages the viewer to accept the information given to them. Yet, this prop encourages the curious viewer to dive deeper than that. Aside from the witch cloak and the red of blood throughout the film, it is the only example of color in a very gray world. The way it stands out displays its importance to the plot. In religion, the bright red apple means only one thing: temptation. In this film, lust is Caleb's own sin. He is a young boy entering puberty with only family members for miles around. He shows his struggle with his budding sexuality through his sister, who is becoming a woman herself. When Caleb becomes lost in the woods, he is led by the rabbit to the witch's home. The witch is in the form of a beautiful young woman with ample cleavage. She embodies temptation. She is both the snake in the tree of knowledge and Eve standing underneath it, and she is offering Caleb a juicy red apple. It's no surprise that he gives in to sin and gains the carnal knowledge he desires. The apple gives another level of interpretation to the story available to those with an eye for it. Kate's silver goblet is first mentioned quite early in the film. Thomason is blamed for losing this valuable and cherished item. Then later, William confesses to selling it. The goblet is only actually seen for the first time near the end of the film. On an explicit level, the goblet is used to display a piece of Thomasin's rocky relationship with her mother and to counter the perfect patriarch image portrayed by William, who has sinned perhaps the most in the family. Just like the apple, its shining appearance demands a closer look. In both the Christian and Puritan faiths, the silver goblet is a symbol of the connection between the believer and Christ. It is an essential implement in communion and plays a major role in connecting with God. Depending on specific beliefs, this practice, known as the Eucharist, can connect one on a physical level with Christ. These days, those wishing to commune with their Lord can go to church, where they consume the symbolic body and blood of Christ. However, in the early 17th century, a visit to the church was easier said than done for those living in the wilderness. Because of this, many families had their own personal goblets that allowed them to perform this ritual on their own. Knowing this, a question arises. By selling the goblet, did William destroy the one connection they had with Christ? Did his sinful lie open up the family to the advances of the devil himself? In novels and short stories, when an object or idea makes many repeat appearances, it often warrants a closer look. The same holds true for film. One prop that is shown over and over in The Witch is the family's source of livelihood, corn. It's shown in crop form, hanging to dry, and later, it's shown being processed into grain form. Its food, or lack thereof, the corn is visibly unhealthy, and at a first glance, supports the idea that the family is struggling to prepare for winter. Perhaps, however, it was included in the film to make the observant viewer question the family's reality. Ergot is a fungus that is known to grow on rotten corn and grain. In humans, it can cause painful seizures and spasms, diarrhea, headaches, nausea, and vomiting. Mental side effects include mania and psychosis. Caleb and the twins all experienced painful seizures and spasms. Perhaps their young age makes them more susceptible to these symptoms. And of course, Caleb vomits the apple. The other symptoms, mania and psychosis, affect the mind and are known to affect what is seen, heard, and felt. Imagine a family secluded in the woods many miles from another soul. No help or support is available. The only food they have access to is rotten corn, infested with a hallucinogenic fungus. Once ingested, the twins speak with a goat. Thomasin loses a child while sitting in the middle of an open field. Caleb gets lost in the woods and eventually dies from ergot poisoning. After losing 2 children, Kate hallucinates their return despite burying one of them herself. And William, the strongest and largest in the family, least affected by the fungus, only plays along with the wild accusations, dying soon after due to an accident at his woodpile.
Corruption, thou art my father.
It's not a hard scenario to imagine, and with the addition of moldy corn as a prop, the film is opened to this new interpretation. Each of these elements add another possible layer to the story and take it beyond the second dimension. It's a story with strong over and undertones of religion. At the same time, it explores potential scientific explanations to real events. With these two opposing ideas hinted at by the on-screen props, the film can walk the line and keep audiences guessing. When it comes to this 2015 horror thriller, the devil is in the details.